Here we have the inside of the 2015 Elddis Majestic 275. If we firstly come to the main control panel, you will see that we have the master switch just here to turn the 12 volt on and off. Beneath that we have the main isolator for all of the onboard lights. They can then all be individually turned on and off on their own switches. We have the water pump on and off just here. We need the water pump on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained. And then lastly we have the awning light on and off. Up the top here it's letting us know that we're connected to main supply and that the fresh water level is either 0 or minimal. If we now start pressing the arrow keys, we can then get varied amounts of information. So it's letting us know that there's no water in the waste tank and the fresh tank. User settings, if we now press enter, we can go into this. We can change the contrast of the screen, whether or not it beeps when we press a button, how quickly it goes into standby when we're not using the control panel. You can set whether or not an alarm goes off when your water level is low and your waste level is high. If you lose main supply, if your vehicle battery is low or your leisure battery is low, and then auto battery we just leave in the on position, and then what firmware it's running. If we now exit back to the main menu and continue, you'll see that we're using the leisure battery and then the condition of it, and then back to the beginning again. To alter the time, just hold the enter button in and then it will begin to flash, and then use your arrow keys to then change the time. If we now come to the Aldi control panel for your heating and your hot water, you'll see we turn the control panel on and off just here. On initial startup, again it will let you know if you have main supply connected and give you an internal temperature of the motorhome. If we now press menu, it will bring up its basic functions. So you'll see the top one here is the thermostat for the heating. Just plus and minus to pick whatever temperature you would like it to be inside the motorhome. Beneath that we then have a shower head for hot water. So if I now press this, hot water on, and then if I press it for a second time, hot water on a boost. The boost facility is extremely handy if there's going to be more than one of you having showers in quick succession of each other, or if you would just like a longer shower. If you do perform that boost and the heating is running, it will turn the heating off as it needs the extra power. After heating and hot water, we then have power source. So at the moment, nothing has come on because we haven't selected what we want to be using to run it. So you'll see we have a lightning strike just here and it says off. So if I now press this, we're now running the system on mains electricity using 1 kilowatt. If I press it again, 2 kilowatts, and again 3 kilowatts. So this is just dependent on the amperage of the site you're on to stop yourself from tripping. If we don't have main supply, we can highlight the flame and run on gas. And if we want to get to temperature nice and quickly and we have both power sources available, we can run in dual fuel mode. It will only use the gas as it is required. If we now press the little spanner symbol here, we will go into the settings menu. So we firstly have clock set just here. We then have night mode, so we have a night timer. Turn the timer on and off just here. Set the temperature we would like it to be through that period just on this bit. Then set the time period, so when it starts, whether it's for all days of the week or just individual. And then an end time. We can also down here highlight this one, which means throughout that period this backlight would change to black and the writing would go to white. And if we highlight this one, it will not make any hot water for that period, which is handy, especially if you're only using gas. After that, we then have the day timer, so exactly the same again, but just for the daytime. Instead of having two individual timers, you can just have one delayed start and stop to the system. So the system could fire up at, say, Monday at 7 o'clock in the morning and continue to run until Saturday at 12 in the afternoon. Next we have prioritize. So this is what the system prioritizes in using when in that dual fuel mode. So currently it favors mains electricity over gas. So as I said, it will only use the gas as it's required. If you were on an extremely low amp site, you can flip it on its head so it consumes more gas, less electricity. Next we have temperature offset for the onboard thermostat. If you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly alter it. If I now arrow down, we have screen brightness just here, and we can invert the backlight all the time if we wanted to. Next we have antimicrobial. This can only be used if A, it's turned on like so, and secondly you are using the night mode. What will then happen is at about 2-3 o'clock in the morning the boiler will come on, rapidly heat itself up to kill off any bacteria that might be in the system. We then have pump settings, just leave it on thermal. We only want the ethylene glycol to go through the radiators as it's required. If you want it to beep every time you press a button. Language, external start. You can have additional boxes added, so you can add SIM cards, etc., and then control this via an app. These ones are not used on this particular model. I can activate this one, which I will show you in a moment. Service is more for the workshop, but if you press it, it will just let you know what everything is up to. So you'll see both the glycol for the radiators and the water temperature is currently at 35. Oh, you'll see the glycol's just gone up by 1 to 36 degrees. Factory reset. If there's a problem with the control panel, you can just reset it. And then we have installed accessories. So if we go into this, just about everything has already been ticked that's appropriate for this particular vehicle, but we can, if we want to, highlight this one. And if we now arrow back up, you'll see it's now activated. And with the load monitor, if you know how many amps the site is that you are on, you can then pick. So let's say we're on a relatively lowish 10 amp site, hit the enter button. I could now put it up to 3 kilowatts and the load monitor would stop ourselves from tripping. If we now come to underneath the fridge freezer, you will see we have the consumer unit. So we have the main strip switches just here. So we have the 3 individual MCBs just here, and then the main RCD and the test button. So if anything's not working on main supply, just check to see whether or not you've tripped. And then beneath that we then have the 12 volt fuses. Again, they are all labelled up, so if something's not working on 12 volt, again just check to see whether or not you've blown a fuse. Also in here you will see the gas isolation tap for the fridge freezer. It is in the on position and it can stay like that. I always say if you smell gas in the van, just go to the source and turn the gas bottle off. If we now come to the controls for the fridge, on and off just here. This is an automatic fridge freezer, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we are currently hooked up to mains electricity, it's put us onto mains. If I now ran outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as we start the engine of the vehicle, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. We can take it out of auto if we want to, so I could now manually put it onto gas, or I could manually put it onto 12 volt maintain. If we do this at the moment, it will beep at us and we will get a red little warning triangle just here. Reason being is that the engine is currently not running. This is the noise you will also get if it's failed to light on gas due to the fact that the gas bottle's turned off, or you've run out, or there's a little bit of air in the system. If you think it's just down to air, what you can do is just press this button here and it will then reattempt to light itself again. But automatic is the easiest basically setting to have it on. Temperature control just here, and then open just here just by pushing down, and then you'll see we have a nice large removable freezer compartment. The clips for that are just tucked underneath here, and then we also have this part here. If I slightly push in, we can then slide it out, so when you're not using the motorhome you can hold the fridge door on a jar to avoid it going mouldy and smelly, and then turn the unit back off again just here. Above we have the digital amplifier for the television aerial on the roof. All we really need to do with this particular TV aerial is literally just make sure it's on, and then all it is just a matter of popping your TV on the TV bracket and then plugging it in either into mains or the 12 volt depending on your TV, and then popping your fly lead in just here. As we come across to the other side, we have the sink, and the hot plate just here. This operates on main supply and the red light will come on when it's in operation. We then have the 3 gas rings, and that is just push in, twist and then press the igniter. Beneath this we then have the grill, sometimes grills will take a little bit longer to light, especially when you've just put a gas bottle on, because they need to purge the air out. And then lastly, beneath the grill we then have the oven. And then also with the oven we have a light. Beneath the oven we have the gas isolation tap for it, and then also tucked up just in the darkness just here is a plug plugged in, which is for the electric hot plate. We next have the microwave, again works on main supply. You do need to press the eco button just first to wake it up. It's always advisable to remove the plate for travel, and then it behaves like most normal microwaves. Start, stop just here. You then have your auto cook up the top. Timer set just here. If we now come to the bench seat just here, and we remove the cushions, you will see the Aldi boiler just tucked down just here. If I now flap up this section, we can then see the gas isolation tap for the heating and the hot water, but also the drain valve for the boiler itself. So to drain it down for winterization, all we need to do is make sure the water pump is turned off and then just flap up like so. It's then also advisable to then go around and open up all the taps. That way it will release any airlocks in the system and help the system drain down. And then if there was to be an extremely harsh frost, what we hope will happen is the water as it freezes will be forced out the end of the tap into an icicle instead of expanding in the pipework and splitting it. When you are repriming the system, once you've flapped it back down like this, make sure you've got water in your fresh tank and turn the water pump on. You will then need to start opening the taps up. They'll cough, they'll splutter as they force the air out. Once the taps are running freely, close them back down again, and then the system will fully prime. Also, whilst we have this bench seat up, you will see a switch just here, and this switch controls the fan that blows air out into the cab. You will see that there is also one underneath the other bench seat as well. So if you have your heating on, you can then transfer some of the heat via that fan into the cab area where the majority of the heat is lost due to the simple fact of the front not being double glazed like the rest of the van. Underneath the other bench seat, again we will see the switch just here for the fan on this side, and then also underneath here we have the fresh water tank. On the ceiling we have the carbon monoxide alarm and the smoke alarm, and then if we then move to the back, we have the omni-vent fan. To operate this, wind the roof vent up just here, and then we have fan on in the centre, and then arrows out for extraction, arrows in for cooling, variable fan speed just by pressing. And then make sure that the vent is down again for travel. If we now come to the washroom, we have the basin, the shower cubicle. Do make sure that the shower screen is secured for travel. We then have the Thetford toilet. To open to the cassette, slide the grey lever across and then push to flush just here, and then close back up again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure that the blade has not been left open. You will get a level indicator just here to let you know when the cassette needs emptying.